All right. So, Vatsal, thank you for joining in the AKIC's Your Story session. Now, AKIC is all about building an international community for students in USA and UK. And I know, I'm saying like, I do not want to explain you the power of community and network building and the importance of that to you. So, but then again, if we are able to build and collaborate on this particular community, helping international students in various challenges that they face in terms of maybe their accommodations, in terms of their job hunting, and whatnot. This can be a really powerful group to be in. And we just want to try out if this is a valuable proposition that we can build as an ecosystem and as a community over at AKIC. We started this initiative 1 month back, and right now we are almost around 360 members from various universities in and around USA. We have something similar for UK as well. It has also crossed around 300 plus members in less than 1 month. So that means there is a need for such a community around this particular space, and a lot of them are having a lot of challenges, which they're posting in and out on our community, asking for help and so on. So we want to make it up to you. And one such activity, what we are trying to do is talking to each of our members, understanding their whole life journey, so that other members will be really able to grab those learnings from the speakers. So that's how we have brought you today. You are a special person for us, Vatsal. Maybe we can start off with a small introduction from you. There might not be people joining. So what I'll do is I record this session and then take it up on YouTube and then share back to the community, so that when these members are free, they can watch it again and so on. So over to you, Vatsal, the short introduction, and then we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I hope I'm audible. You can hear me, right? Awesome. Okay. So firstly, no, like AKISC, I really enjoy like the community, and I think it's a very powerful community. And I've been in touch with Parag from your team, and he's always been very kind and helpful to me. So I'm very, very happy to be a part of this community and help as much as I can. So yeah, for everyone, my name is Vatsal. I'm originally from Calcutta in India, and I'm 25 years old. I did my bachelor's in economics from Delhi University, Sri Ram College of Commerce. And then I sort of took one gap year and followed UPSC, prepared for UPSC, couldn't clear that. And then what had happened is by the end of my third year, I had applied for masters abroad in economics at Oxford, Yale, Cambridge, LSE. Fortunately, got through all these places, and I also had a job offer from Bain and Company to join their strategy consulting team in Gurgaon, based out of Gurgaon. So I didn't take the job offer, and I went for UPSC. That didn't happen, and then I had like deferred all these programs that I had gotten through, and then when UPSC didn't work out, I went for my masters. So I came to Yale finally because the US is something that was always much more interesting to me than the UK or Germany or like all these other countries. So, and plus my program was STEM. So I had 1 year of OPT and 2 years of STEM OPT, which was very helpful. At Yale, like I did my master's in economics, did a bunch of like things and worked as a research assistant over there. And after that, I started working for the World Bank based out of Washington, DC. That's where I worked for 2 years, and I worked in their Education South Asia team. So in World Bank, you're doing 50%, you're doing hardcore economic research, econometrics, big data, also did some machine learning in Python, like random forests and things like that. And then the other 50% is you're lending money to a government ministry to execute projects on the ground. So in my case, like World Bank had lent about $1 billion to the Bangladesh Education Ministry, and we were trying to execute projects there. So I was one of the people based out of Washington, DC, who were like overseeing and like implementing that. So that was very interesting. And after 2 years, I sort of felt like my learning curve, I want to do something different. And then that's when like I had friends at the IMF, and I reached out to them and said, do you guys have anything currently? And then they had an opening, and I applied for that. And International Monetary Fund, IMF, again based out of Washington DC, is much more macroeconomic focused. So and it's much more research focused. So it's like hardcore macro research, running a lot of like in-house proprietary models and frameworks, and like again a lot of work on Python's data with econometrics, big data. It's that kind of work. And it's also a lot of writing work, which is interesting. So right now my role is much more research, and the lending side is not that much, because IMF is more of it's an emergency doctor. When countries really go to shit with their exchange rates or inflation, that's when like IMF comes in. So yeah, that's broadly my introduction. And yeah, I stay in Washington DC. I've been in the US for about 3 years now, like three and a half years. So yeah, that's a short, actually a pretty long introduction, but hope it's helpful. Yeah.
Right. All right. So thank you very much, Vatsal, for giving that deep introduction about you. Now, I have been going through your LinkedIn profile, and I think you started your journey with UN, being an
Yeah.
ambassador. I think it might be during your student days. And when I see that career path or the trajectory, I feel like you are an achiever and you wanted to achieve something. And I think 90% of the people around us are not in that particular thought process of becoming achievers or becoming big, becoming climbing up that ladder. So how did that particular thought process came into you? Maybe an inspiration or any particular thought. What was the tipping point behind that?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So the ironical part is, until class 11, I had never scored above 90% in my life, because I used to play cricket like a lot. So I've played Bengal under 16, I've played Bengal under 19 back home. I was selected for like the preparatory camp of the Kolkata Knight Riders way back, like when the IPL was just starting. So for me, cricket, like academics, studies and stuff was never the thing for me. What happened was, like, I realized cricket, I'm not good enough, so I started focusing on academics, and then I scored well and I went to Delhi University. And what happened in Delhi University was, the very first day of class, on my left is like the Maharashtra state topper, on my right is Tamil Nadu state topper, and I'm like, wow, like wherever I come, I don't belong here. I've never been a topper in my life. Like, I won't be able to survive this. But thankfully I had like 2 3 good seniors in the final year, like who were 2 years senior to me in college, and they guided me a lot and stuff. So what I figured was, if I cannot compete with these people academically, which was wrong, like I could have and I did, but that confidence nahi tha, I didn't have the self confidence that I could compete with these guys academically. I was like, what other things can I do to beat the competition? um and I wanted to do it because, like, for me, leaving Calcutta and coming to Delhi was a big deal, because I come from a Marwadi family, and most Marwadi kids, like most of my friends back in Calcutta, have all joined the family business, right? So for me, I didn't want to join the family business because I didn't find it interesting. So my parents were like, okay, you're going to Delhi, so please achieve something there. Please make good use of your time. Don't just keep doing masti, or don't waste your time there. So for me, it was, I don't want to join my family business. That's not a career option for me. So I'll have to do something of my own. There's no other option. And then in Delhi, SRCC is a very, very competitive college in and of itself. So I figured out how competitive people can be and stuff. And I started doing things. I started doing very well once I started focusing on them. And that was a big revelation for me, that I can really beat the competition. I can advance ahead. I have certain qualities in me that a lot of other people don't. So in college, like, getting into debating society was amongst the hardest societies to get into, but I got into that. The kind of internships I did were internships that people really it was hard for them to get it. In third year, like, I was one of the only two people in the whole SRCC batch, economics and BCom, 800 people combined, who got shortlisted for each and every company that came in college, right? And not because I had good academic, like I had a 8.5 CGPA, and I used to study like 1 week before the exam, which is something I should not have done. But I had these other things in my resume to really make up for, like, my low CG, not low, but like very average CGPA, right? So yeah, like I had good guidance from mentors, I had good guidance from seniors, and I always kept thinking, what else can I do to beat the competition? What else can I do? Because SRCC was a place where if you achieve something today, the very next day somebody's going to achieve way more than you, right? So you're always struggling, you're always trying to out compete people. So yeah, like I think combination of all of these factors made me think in these ways. Yeah.
All right. So maybe if mm, I can break it down. Two things is what you mentioned. One is being in that right network at the right time, where with the right mentors really helped. And
Absolutely.
second thing, the constant struggle that you had that pushed you in achieving your heights. Understood. Now,
Yeah.
what was your thought process behind UPSC, and what took you to that particular journey from the college life?
Yeah. So basically, at the end of my second year in college back in Delhi, I had done an internship with the Ministry of Finance in North Block, um, like right next to the Parliament building, right? So, and over there, I used to meet a lot of IAS officers. I met Arun Jaitley. I met like one, two very senior politicians over there because I was working in the finance ministry. I was in the chief economic advisor's office in the finance ministry. Um, and these guys used to motivate me a lot. You know that IAS is like something that you should go for, and you'd be someone who'd be a good fit for it and stuff. So I was like, why not? Okay, let's try it. It's something, and there's a family background to this as well. So my father actually always wanted to do UPSC back when he was 21 years old. He graduated from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata. But my grandfather forced him in the family business. So he could never pursue his dreams. So growing up, he used to motivate me. He used to tell me, that IAS is something that gives a very good career. You'll, be managing policy related issues. You'll be impacting people's lives. It's a very good profession and things like that. So it is a combination of my father's unfulfilled dream and what I saw in the Ministry of Finance. So at the end of my third year, like I sat for placements. I had one job offer from Bain and Company. I'd applied for my master's and I deferred those programs by 1 year. So I thought, okay, I have this 1 year. Let's see what I want to do. And to be honest, like I didn't have that thing that I want to do corporate. I want to do corporate. For me, it was like I just wanted to pursue UPSC, see where it takes me. And my whole logic was I'll give maximum one attempt or maybe two attempts, and I won't go beyond that. And that's more than enough for me. And yeah, then I went for it. I couldn't clear it. But then during my preparation phase, the way I did it was I didn't take a single coaching class or I didn't take any tuitions. My strategy was I cold emailed 15, 20 IAS officers who had just cleared the exam, right? I used to go to, like in West Bengal, like every ministry has a website, right? And in these ministry websites, you have the email IDs of like every IAS officer, right? Because they're public servants. So I just cold emailed 15, 20 of them and said, I am in Calcutta, I'm starting UPSC preparation. I don't want to go to Delhi and take coaching. Can we get on a 40-minute in-person meeting? And to their credit, you know, we would get lunches or coffee. I would get coffee with them in person and they would tell me their entire strategy. And even after UPSC, I stayed in touch with them. And a lot of them have become very good friends of mine. And they keep telling me, in and out, what they're going through, the highs and lows of their career, how they have to deal with politicians, how they have to deal with corruption and stuff. And when I went back to Calcutta this time in December, I stayed with the collector of one of the districts for like 3 nights. I shadowed the collector on like his responsibilities day to day. So I got a very up close view of like what a daily IAS officer's job looks like, and this has, the more information I get, the more I realize that it's not for me at this stage. So it really helped me that I took one attempt and I was like, I was already in Yale by then. I had a job offer from the World Bank and stuff. So I was like, okay, let's try the World Bank. Let's see where it goes. And so far, yeah, like I've come to the conclusion that I wouldn't want to continue with UPSC. Yeah, so that's sort of like these 2-3 factors helped me in like narrowing it down. But of course, like had I cleared it in my very first attempt, I would have gone for it, obviously. Yeah, so I managed to clear the preliminary exam. The mains exam I missed out by like 5 marks. So yeah, I couldn't clear the mains exam. Yeah.
All right. So again, from this particular point, what I've understood is whatever struggles that you had, you try to jump that across, not in a usual thought, but in an unusual thought. When you mentioned, I think most of the students who take the Delhi route and then to IAS, where you thought maybe I will message them directly and then get some time from them, and that ultimately help you to get that network building. So how is that kind of a thought process comes into you? How can others learn from that, or what made you to think in that direction, which is not a common thought process for a normal human being?
Yeah. So okay. So I think the first thing I like to do is I love to hear about anything directly from the source, because I think by the time it comes in the news, or it comes via coaching centers, or it comes via admission consultants, or it comes via HR, it's very filtered. It's very filtered out, it's very abstracted, it's very generalized and summarized. So my sense is I want to hear directly from the source and approach it in a very first principles manner, right? So for me, networking again happened very accidentally, where in college I was part of the fundraising team for our annual fest. And my job was to cold call, like literally like a call center employee, just cold call marketing executives of companies and be like, we at SRCC are having this fest, please give us money and we'll give you sponsorship and branding and all of that. And ultimately, like, we ended up raising about 3-4 lakhs. Like, I ended up raising about 3-4 lakhs, and that blew my mind. I was like, wow, like, these people don't even know who I am. I just cold called them and I convinced, our team was able to convince these people to give us money. I was like, wow, this cold calling is like really powerful. This cold networking is like really powerful. So, like, people are willing to get on calls with strangers and help out strangers. And that was a big revelation for me. And then even in college, like during internships, I didn't have any source, or I didn't know anyone working in corporates. So again, I was like, acha, cold email karke dekhte hain. So I cold emailed, like I went on LinkedIn, I used to send connection requests to a lot of people, and I cold emailed people. And that's how I got both my internships. I was like, wow, this cold emailing like really works. And I figured I was getting my way around things. I was achieving things through cold emailing. I didn't have to go through the traditional route. So yeah, like it just happened to me accidentally. It worked for me, and now it's my go-to approach for anything. So if I want to apply for any job, or if I want to do anything, or if I want to talk to interesting people, I just message them, yaar. Like that's it. I don't like going through any filters, or I don't like to hear adulterated or filtered summarized opinions. So I just want to go directly to the source, and it's worked for me so far. But to be honest, it was by accident. Like, had I not been part of the fundraising team in my college, had I not cold emailed during my internships, I would not have done this. I would not have been good at this. So yeah, it happened to me by accident. It worked for me, and I've just kept doing it. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So my next question would be, so you reached at a position where not a lot of people would be reaching, and you have a long way ahead as well in your career, for sure. Now, what are the 3 top skills that you have possessed over your time period to achieve in that particular position, and also will help you to achieve even more heights in the near future?
Yeah. So again, like, you make me sound like an expert or something, but I'm not. I'm like just 25 years old and stuff. I'm still figuring things out myself. But okay, maybe 3 things that have worked for me is, again, like, be good at networking. It's very, very important. And networking not in the way that, you meet someone in person and like chit chat and talk to them. No, networking is like, you go up to a stranger, you make them comfortable in your presence, and you try to show them how you can add value and how you can receive help. So it's like building like these in-person or like people skills, networking, how to write a good email, how to conduct a cold call and things like that, I think it's a very important skill to have. The second is, I would say, being I am quite paranoid as a person, so I keep thinking about my next steps all the time. So what would the second thing would be just being good in terms of planning far out in the future, and being very long term oriented also helps. um, so that is something I found is very helpful. The third thing is how to identify noise from signal, right? So how to generally be a good decision maker, um, is something that has helped me, in the sense that if you're presented with any information, or if you are thinking about a career shift, or if you're thinking about where I can go, you will get a lot of information from different sources. In that, how do you filter out between noise, what is noisy, what is not relevant, and what is actually the distilled truth? That's something that comes over time, and that comes through reading and talking to a lot of people and talking to different types of people. So like, I love talking to strangers. So talking to strangers makes me realize, how are they thinking? What are the general insecurities? And like, I'm sorry if it's a more philosophical, abstract answer, but like, I've not mentioned any hardcore or quantitative or like these type of skills. Okay. These are more like in person and innate skills that you can try to develop. And that's something that's really helped me. Like, I don't think I'm like in a room, I would not be the best number cruncher, but I'm good with people, and like talking to people, and like networking, and like these softer aspects of psychology of like dealing with people. So yeah, that's something that I try to use to my strength. And again, like, think from a very competitive point of view, how can you beat your competition, and things that those things help. And um through LinkedIn, you will always, find people whose profiles you want to emulate, or where you want to be, or that you find interesting. So just reach out to them, talk to them, and they will tell you like skills and stuff that you may need. So yeah, that's been my approach. Sorry, I don't think I've answered this question properly, but yeah, like, I think these three things have helped me so far. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So I just wanted to understand your mental layout on that, even though three pointer was something just to cap your thought process. That's right.
Yeah.
So my next question would be, what is your goal in life when it comes to two directions? One is a professional life, and also the life that you're having right now.
Wow. Okay. What are my professional goals? So, to be very honest, like, I have some short term and medium term goals, right? Short term goals are that I want to figure out a way to stay in the US for longer. So I want to figure out how can I get a green card, and how can I short circuit that process as well. That's something I'm trying to put my mind towards, because I think this is a country I want to stay for the longer term. Because I like this country. I integrate into the society well here. I've made a lot of friends and stuff so far, and I think this is a place that I can do well. So short term is more like how to figure out like staying in this country long term. And again, personally, it's also like, um, developing good friendships, living a good life, being a constant learner, reading books, expanding my mental faculties in different ways. Another short-term goal is like learn how to code. One of my biggest regrets in life is I didn't take computer science in my undergrad, which I should have, because I think I could contribute a lot and I can do well. So I'm trying to learn coding in a more serious and professional way myself. So these are more like short-term goals. Longer-term goals would be like I want to do um, something that something in teaching and something in investments. So like, I since a very young age, like my father, he's involved in the stock markets back home, like a lot. So he's been teaching me about the stock markets from a very young age. uh, I think I'm a decent stock picker. So once I'm more established, once I have more personal savings, I would want to launch an investment fund or something of my own, do something more entrepreneurial, right? And the second thing is I want to develop a highly scaled version where I can teach people what I know. So like that's how like Parag got in touch with me from your team, right? Like I conduct weekend sessions on like how to network, how to write a good essay, how to frame your resume better and things like that. How should you think about your careers and things like that. So for me, like I want to teach people, but teach them at a very high scale level where I'm teaching like thousands of people at one go and I'm teaching them skills I know. And the second is I want to launch like an investment fund or something of my own in the longer term. And the shorter term would be learn how to code, learn like, figure out a way to stay in the US longer term with a green card or something. And personally, in my personal life, also like build relationships and like achieve certain more personal goals. So that's what I'm thinking, to be honest. Like, yeah, I, yeah, that's
Got
my
it.
headspace right now. Yeah.
Got it. So now, coming back to your master's program, you did your master's from Yale. Doing a master's from Yale, was it part of your uh, short-term goal to maybe settle yourself in US and then build your career ahead, or was it more of a that will really help me in the professional growth side of a thing, maybe a long-term gain? How was that thought process like? Choosing your university and placing yourself for that particular program that you want.
Yeah. So, I Yale, like I never had a thing like that I want to settle here or anything like that. It was more gradual. So at Yale, it was more like just trying to extract and learn as much as I could from that place, learn as much from the professors, from my peers, learn some like skills and just understand more about the American culture and like talk to different people. And then after Yale, like World Bank happened, and like even World Bank happened in a very funny way. I again got that job purely through cold emailing because this was March of 2020, April of 2020, when I was like applying for jobs. And that time, COVID layoffs were at its peak and Trump was also there. So it like engineering and software IT is really different, where I think during that time, people were getting more jobs and the labor market for like IT and software was very good because everything was being digitalized and like it was becoming a more virtual remote world. But for finance and economics and things like that, getting a job was decently hard. So yeah, like, and I was like, I want to, if I've come to the US and I have like OPT and 2 years of STEM OPT, I want to work in the US for at least 2-3 years. And I was like, I was 22 years old basically. So I was like, let's, let's do it. Let's stay in the US. Let's be experimentative. Let's not go back to India so soon. And then like once I got my job and stuff and I started working in Washington DC, like I really started liking the city. I started liking the people, started liking my lifestyle and stuff. And the more time I spend here, the more I start enjoying this place and wanting to be here. So yeah, it's happened like very organically. It's not something I've planned that where my location should be. But now I'm like, the US is a $22 trillion economy. There's so many jobs. There's so many things I can achieve here. There's so many things I can do. I get good vegetarian food here. I've developed good friendships and stuff. So I'm like, yeah, it's a place I can settle for the longer term. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. My another question would be, so for a person who doesn't want to go into that 90% category, what is the certain career opportunity that I can place in my life, and what are the domain opportunities that you see in the next 10 years down the line to be successful in the top maybe 10% of the creamy layer from the crumb, you can say.
Yeah. I think one thing, irrespective of jobs, okay, is just try and build a personal brand. Okay. be active on LinkedIn, start a YouTube channel, like teach people, be out there on social media. I think it's important, and something I am realizing more and more is like, even you guys, right? Like Parag from Admit Card reached out to me because like my LinkedIn post really blew up, right? So having a personal brand, irrespective of whatever job you do, will really help you, right? So like I keep seeing people who view my profile on LinkedIn, and it's like people very high up in Goldman Sachs, in JP Morgan, in government of India, in World Bank, IMF, in like Amazon, Google. Like a lot of interesting people view my profile, and that's because the content I publish, the stuff I write about, people, a lot of people connect to it, right? So irrespective of industry, right? Like I can say, yeah, like people know this, like software, investment banking, finance, medicine. These are the high lawyers. These are the high earning professions in the US and in India. Private equity, venture capital. People can get into this, right? There are ways, there are set paths where you can get into this, right? Like, but I think longer term, where I see the world going is influence is going to get more and more concentrated in social media, right? So I think for everyone, please try and build a personal brand. And that's something I am actively trying to do. Because a personal brand you can leverage, you can develop a very good side business through this, through your personal brand. You can reach out to anyone you want. You can build a very solid network. So it gives you more financial freedom. It gives you more mental freedom, where you're like, if you're not liking your current job, you can switch your current job if you want, because your visibility on LinkedIn or Instagram or YouTube is very good, right? So I would say try to build a personal brand. I think that is very important in this day and age. And second is like, for me, what I'm figuring out is like, you just have to know coding these days. There's no going around it. And I really regret not taking computer science because I didn't have any guidance, because like there was no Marwadi in my circle in Calcutta, like who I knew, like, was in this field. So I'm trying to develop these two things, especially like a personal brand and coding. It's like how Naval Ravikant says, right? If you know how to build and if you know how to sell, you'll be unstoppable, right? Coding for me and like these hard skills are more learning how to build, and your personal brand is you knowing how to sell, right? So you know how to build, you know how to communicate and sell, you'll really be unstoppable. So, and then again, like the more personal version of this is try to go in a journey of self-discovery. So like learn the things you're good at, self-discover yourself, take solo trips, put yourself in different situations, do things you haven't ever done before. Start dating someone. That's a great way to like self-discover yourself, so you'll realize qualities in you that you are good at and you're bad at. And then like I think for me, what I've figured out in the last 2-3 months is I love to teach. I love to like teach, and I'm a good teacher. So I started doing these weekend sessions on LinkedIn, right? So that has helped me. So again, like discover these more innate things about yourself, and trust me, most of us by like our age have not even discovered 30-40% of who we are. Okay, so the journey of self-discovery is like it's a very long term oriented thinking. So like try to do that, and then try to align your personality with what you want to do, and you'll also be happier as a person, right? So I'm pretty happy right now because like I love to teach. I've started getting a lot of satisfaction from it. And like I'm doing well in my job and stuff. So it's yeah, these things are aligning well for me. Yeah.
Got it. One final question before we end the session. Uh, do you get imposter syndrome time to time, or maybe sometime, feeling that I'm not, I think you got the word imposter syndrome. That's something that nowadays people talk about. Have
I do.
got it? Yeah. So can you explain something about it? How you overcome that? Because people are, all of us are like common people, but I don't know how to explain that. But maybe you can. I'll be complicating the question. Maybe I believe you got it and you
No,
can answer.
I get what you're saying. It's like imposter syndrome, correct me if I'm wrong, is basically the fact that you don't feel competent enough, or you feel like a fraud, or you feel like you're not adept enough at like what you're doing or how you're projecting yourself to the world, or like in your current job or profession, right? Like Is that a correct understanding of imposter syndrome?
Kind of. Yes. You are not fit into that particular. Say, for example, I am CEO of Microsoft, and I think that I am not fit to be, or my skills doesn't fit to be the CEO of Microsoft. That kind of a thought process. I think you got the
Yeah.
whole line.
Yeah. So yeah, I do sometimes get imposter syndrome, but it's more in the way of like, okay, how can I improve? And I think a good way, I'm audible, right? You guys can hear me? I think your video paused a little. Okay, I
It's
think I'll.
working.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'll continue with my answer. I think a good way to deal with imposter syndrome is have a more long-term oriented thinking and figure out in the long term where do I want to be for sure, or definitely what are the skills I want to have. Okay. So for me, long-term oriented thinking automatically means that I'm trying to read half an hour or 1 hour every day. I'm taking baby steps in learning how to code. I'm trying to develop a personal brand and network, because I know if I do these things consistently for 5 or 10 years, they will really compound and they will really like help me become much better when I'm 35 or 40 years old. So I think having a longer term bent of mind versus short term, and it's hard because in today's social media driven world where we're scrolling our phones like every hour, every 2 hours, it's very hard to become long term oriented because you're incentivized to only think in the short term, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is just like think of it in a very law of large numbers way, right? So for example, if I was CEO of a company, the way I would think about it is there are 3,000 other CEOs of like very big companies, right? And if one out of those 3,000 people can do it, I can easily do it, you know? So, okay, like another analogy would be if I'm preparing for UPSC, if I'm preparing for IAS, right? And every year 180 people are becoming IAS officers, right? The way I would rationalize my like imposter syndrome would be there are 180 people. I am very sure I am smarter or better than at least one person out of those 180. And that's not hard. Like there are 180 people. I am sure all of us are better than at least one person out of that 180. So if you're trying for like a company, or if you're trying to get into an institution or a school or a company or dream company, the way you should think is there are X number of employees. I am definitely better than one out of X, one on X, right? Or one on N. So having a long-term thinking and just thinking more law of large numbers way that where I want to be, I am definitely better than one person out of those N people, right? And the third thing is through imposter syndrome, like try to work hard on it. Like if you feel you're genuinely behind in some skill, like I genuinely feel I'm behind in coding or software or like Python or C++, whatever. Try to work towards it. What else can you do? There's no shortcut to those things, you know. Yeah.
Now I'm moving into, so I need to ask one or two questions before ending. So one
Sure,
question
sure.
would be, do you have any productivity hack for your professional career? How do you get your targets? How do you make it to on time? How do you keep your projects in the right position? How is that going? Because you are dealing with macroeconomic situations, and it will have a larger impact than we all can expect. So how do you manage your maybe day-to-day tasks? What is your method like?
Okay. So productivity, I wouldn't say, okay, I wouldn't term them productivity hacks. They're more like systems of beliefs that I like to think about. So there are two. The first is have a lot of variance in your life, and I'll come to that. And the second thing is um, be a generalist, don't be a specialist. Okay. So the first is adding variance in life. So simple definition of variance is how much movement does a variable have across a period of time or across like observations. So the way I think about variance is in my life, I don't want to get attached or used to one particular way of doing things or experiencing things. Okay. So it's like if today I'm working on a Lenovo laptop, right? After 1 month, I try working on a MacBook. Or and again, I'm becoming very philosophical, but just bear with me for a minute or two and I'll come to why, like I'm telling you all this, okay? Or it's like, if you're used to having tea in the morning, disrupt that and have coffee the next 1 month. Like, keep disrupting and adding variance to your life, right? So it's like, if you are good at something, disrupt that and try to become good at something else. Take up a new skill. Or if you feel you're getting comfortable, or if you feel you are stagnating in your job, try for a different department in your team, or try to add something more in your job, or just like add more variance and add more diversity to your life. So it's like, if you feel you have like a lot of friends and you feel like, okay, I want to develop new friendships. So for me, it's like, and I'm being very blunt about it, it's like, for me, I want more American friends in my life. I have a lot of Indian friends, right? So I want to disrupt my social life right now, right? And I want to add more variance to it. What happens is, if you add more variance to life, you self-discover more about yourself, and you just get a lot of information and new worlds open up to you that earlier would not have, right? So I think one area that I find very interesting right now is like, I really like I'm going towards like, I want to hear about entrepreneurs, right? So I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. I talk to different people I've never spoken before. I want to add variance in my life. Okay. And I think I've read Mahatma Gandhi's autobiography, The Story of My Experiments with Truth. And that book really motivated me to think about in terms of variance, adding variance in life, right? So Mahatma Gandhi he founded like more than 100 organizations. He tried to do things he never did before. He just added a lot of variance to his diet, his life, his personal life, and things like that. So that, I think, is a good philosophy, and that's expanding my brain in a very different way, right? It's making me more adaptable. It's making me like, tomorrow, if I get fired from my job, within 1 month, I'll get a new job, right? Because I'm just like good at variance. I'm good at like disrupting my own self. Now, the cost of that is you won't have much stability. But you can design what things you want more variance in, what things you want more stability, and that's the first thing. The second thing, wow, I got so deep into this thought, I forgot like the second thing I was trying to tell. But this, what was the original question? What productivity hacks do you sort of use, right? So one is like adding more variance, as I said. The second one, I think another thing that I like to do is just think in terms of like adding value to people's lives, right? So like, whenever you're networking with someone, whenever you're doing anything, whenever you have any bilateral conversation, try to see how you can add value and try to like develop a niche for yourself. And I think, yes, specialization. I think specialization is not the way to go about it. Like, you develop a niche, but you also have like 2-3 skills you can be good at. So like, be good at management, be good at leadership, be good at like people skills, but also be good at like something more quantitative. So don't specialize, because people are multivariate, people are multidimensional. So like, try to have multiple skills, and that, I think, adds a lot of color to your personality, and you can add more value to people's lives if you're more of a generalist. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Uh, Another question would be, how do you acquire knowledge, and top three book recommendations that you can give to the community?
Sure. How do I acquire knowledge? Like, I try to read books, and I think for me, knowledge is about like meeting people. So talk to a lot of strangers, talk to a lot of people, reach out to people, and go deep into like how they think. So yeah, like, I just like reading books. Or like, my UPSC days also induced me the habit of reading newspapers a lot. So my routine back in UPSC was to finish 3 newspapers from the first page to the last page within like 1 hour. So I became good at reading newspapers. Like, yeah, read newspapers, read books. They're very good, and read different types of books. So Three books that I would recommend is read Anti-Fragile by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, read The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and read Mahatma Gandhi's autobiography. Yeah, like these three books. These three books I actually read every year. So even though like the first time I read these books were like a while ago, but these three books I make sure I read every year because the lessons in them are lessons I want to keep constantly in my life. So yeah, I repeat these three books every year. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. One final question would be, what do you think about this particular community, and any thought process, and how we can add more value to this particular community, and how to grow this community forward?
Yeah, like I think this community is pretty good. I haven't engaged with it as much as I should. I think it's something I should definitely do. A way you can add value is, I think, you can encourage people to take learning sessions on topics that interest them. So some person may be very good at some skill, some person may have a very particular type of experience that is valuable to other people. So learning sessions where other members of the community can really learn would be very good. The second is if you can try to organize in-person meetups. So people who are in, say, Washington DC or New York can meet, or like people who are in the West Coast can meet separately, and like we can have like common Zoom calls where like 40-50 people are joining, and like we're talking about, every person has like 5 minutes to present on a topic that they like. um so you can find like interesting people that way. And yeah, like I think start off like these two things would be very beneficial. Yeah. Hmm.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Vatsal, for that. I think we went in depth into certain topics, and it was really good to understand how your thought process was, and this will ultimately help our community. And I just wanted to make this particular time as much as useful, so that the community will get the value out of this. And I think you have done your best in that effort. All the best for your future career ahead, and also for your professional as well as personal works that you are doing in your life. Once again, thank you
Absolutely.
for
Thank you.
giving the
No,
time
no,
for
yeah.
us.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really enjoyed talking to you. You asked like very good, thoughtful questions. So thanks a lot, and look forward to like engaging in more such sessions. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Hmm.
Thank you, and have a good day ahead.
You too. Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Bye bye. Yeah.